Why did LeBron choose the Lakers? How does this decision affect the NBA? What other dominoes fall in LeBron's wake? The only question left is, say it with me, you win. Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast / live show / emergency LeBron podcast show, whatever we're going to call this. As always, I'm joined by Dave Dufour. We ran in here to kind of get out there and start talking to you because obviously about, an hour ago or less, LeBron dropped the news that he signed a 4-year deal with the LA Lakers. Notable because nothing else has happened with the Lakers as far as picking up any other players, which I had thought for sure was going to have to happen beforehand. Dave, what's an introduction for you? What do you have for us?
LeBron to LA, finally, right? Every Lakers fan thought this was going to happen, I don't know, every single year since 2010, basically. Weird. Magic got his man. And this has been a done deal for a while. And I've kind of been hearing stuff for the last few days that there's some concerns about tampering or whatever, but this has been a done deal. I think the whole thing with Philly today was very much just theater. I don't think that was ever a real thing. And now, I hate to say we're already moving on, but we're sort of already moving on, and now it's all about Kawhi, right? That's the issue.
Yeah.
Right? So now, LeBron is in LA. They're bringing back KCP on a 1-year, $12 million. It's a good contract for him. That's good for the Lakers. It's fine.
Yeah, and that's a shooter that they're going to need. I mean,
Kawhi deal is going to be.
Is KCP going to be that shooter that they need from that position? I mean, we've been waiting for him to kind of develop into that, but is it going to be one of those things where with LeBron, the shots will be easier for him and he can kind of imitate that J.R. Smith role, but with being less insane?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Is he a good enough shooter to actually to be able to pull it off? I just don't know.
Right. I mean, the mechanics were there. He likes to hop, and it seemed like he was on that pace. But if I quickly check, I know his 3-point shooting was not very good this past year. But then again, it was a weird year for everybody in the Lakers. All right, let's go talk about what we have here as far as the team so far. Obviously, it's a guarantee that there's something else will happen. Now, you mentioned Kawhi a second ago. What are we thinking about Kawhi? And by the way, I'm sorry, KCP did shoot 38% on 5.6 threes attempts per game last year. So
yeah, I mean, that's okay. My
good.
bigger thing is just, his wing defense is decent. And that's going to be, especially if you pair him with Kawhi and if they keep Lonzo, that's a really good perimeter defensive first three, and then you've got LeBron at the 4, and then you imagine they're going to bring in a rim protecting 5. So, it's the Lakers I think are going to be good. Now let's see if they can actually get Kawhi. Right. Maybe Philly actually brings a huge offer. Fultz and Saric, and maybe that pick that they just got in the which trade was that? Oh yeah, in the Zaire Smith trade. Maybe that Miami Heat pick.
Here's the problem, though, is I think we know that Kawhi is not going to stay, right? And
no, we don't. We don't know that. See, we all thought, and I mean, I was chief among them. I was making jokes all season long. Hey, Paul George. I mean, I bet he's how's the real estate market in LA, right? I really thought he was out the door immediately.
Yeah. Okay.
And hey, look, man, if you trust your culture, and I think Philadelphia does, I think that's why Brett Brown is sort of running things right now. They trust Brett Brown, the culture he's kind of built. Not to mention he's got the relationship with Kawhi. He was, on the coaching staff here in San Antonio for, first few years of Kawhi's career. And they have a good relationship by all reports. So, I'm not discounting the fact that if Philly was able to get Kawhi in a trade, that they would keep him next summer. The hometown, the team that has the bird in the hand, this is why you've got his bird rights as well, right? So salary cap concerns aren't as big of an issue. You can exceed the cap to keep that guy. So I just think a lot of people lose sight of how valuable it is to have a guy in house and actually keep him. And this is why I think the Lakers are maybe overthinking it a little bit. And I know for a fact that the Spurs are asking for a ton, and I'm not saying you have to give them everything they're asking for. I think you got to make a little bit of a better offer than the ones that I've heard reported coming out of LA.
Well, let's talk about that right now. What would make the needle move? Because I had been saying just off the top of my head that they'd probably have to offer Ingram, Kuzma, and a first-round pick. That seems to me a starting point where they could kind of get the lubrication of the trade going. What are your thoughts? Is that enough for Pop, or are they going to try and demand even more?
Well, I think every single trade starts with Ingram. You know, I would imagine, and then I actually threw out Kuzma, Hart, and 2 picks, and I think that the Spurs are asking for even more than that. But I feel like that deal would get done.
Kuzma, Hart, and 2 picks.
Kuzma, Hart, Ingram, and 2 picks.
Oh, Ingram. Okay, wow.
So but I feel like that would get it done. I don't know if that's a better package than what Philly could put together, though. I mean, Markelle Fultz is better to me, is a better prospect, and I know last year was kind of weird, but I think he might be a better prospect than any of those guys LA can trade. And Dario Saric is a very good player. And remember, the Spurs won 47 games this year with only 9 games from Kawhi Leonard, and he was a diminished version of himself because he wasn't healthy. So, you put a good rotation, warm body in his spot, and they probably win 50 games and are the 3 seed. And there's nothing to think that they couldn't be a top 4 seed in the West this year. I think, obviously the Lakers now, with LeBron, you have to start throwing them into the playoff mix. And Utah is really good. But, I mean, the Spurs are not going anywhere. They're gonna be this perennial team that's going to win. I still think they're going to win 50 games even without Kawhi because they're going to replace him with someone useful. And they didn't have that last season. So, I don't know. The whole Kawhi thing is really interesting to me. I know people are saying that San Antonio has no leverage, but the truth is they've got the best asset available on the market. And so you have an inherent leverage there. You also have a market for that. The Lakers want him. Philly wants him. Boston wants him. So, I mean, I think, and I expect this is going to get done soon now that LeBron is signed. That's the most shocking thing to me is that LeBron got this done on day 1. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, as a day 2. Whatever day, Friday night, either way, yes. But here's the thing: the leverage that the Spurs have isn't as strong as they would like it to be, simply because of this LA magnet that they feel. I'm sure most teams might feel. Now, Philly might be the one team, because of the Brett Brown connection, where they don't think that he will just completely bail and go to LA because he wants to go there. But if I were Boston, I would be like, crap, I don't want to risk giving up a lot of assets for him and knowing that he wants to go back to LA. That's a tough one.
That's true. And remember, they've got their own. They've got Kyrie, who's gonna need a new contract next summer.
Right.
Kawhi is going to be getting a new contract next summer. There are actual cap ramifications to this stuff. Not to mention that when you've got a team that already has 3 max players in Kyrie Irving, who's getting a max next summer, Gordon Hayward, who got the max last year, and then Al Horford, who got the max 2 years ago. You've got this whole other stuff that you've got to deal with, and guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, while I think in a vacuum you trade them for the sure thing of Kawhi Leonard, if you're Boston, you can't just trade those guys because they're on their rookie deals and they provide so much value as starters on rookie deals that for the way their team is constructed, it just makes sense. Now, if they were going to trade Gordon Hayward, that's a different conversation.
Okay,
but I don't think that's the deal.
And they got to a Game 7, 1 game away from the finals. Now that LeBron has gone from the East, it's like they don't have to do anything for their team. They're like almost guaranteed, I would think, a finals appearance, except for if Kawhi ends up in Philly, which then causes a wrench in everyone's plans. Certainly on the Boston side, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Kawhi winds up in Philly. They're obviously, to me, they're the favorites to come out of the East, and I know Boston's great, and they're going to be adding Gordon Hayward, but let's not forget that when he's healthy, and this is all if he's healthy, which what we're hearing out of his camp is that he is. Mm-hmm. Kawhi Leonard was an MVP. To me, he was the MVP.
Yeah.
2 years. He's a top 5 player in the league. He's one of the 2 or 3 best defenders in the league, probably the best wing defender in the league. He's a 45+% three-point shooter. He's a 90% free throw shooter. He's a guy that can create off the dribble. This is like in a it's a no-brainer to me that if you add him to your team, you've gotten exponentially better. And as we know, Philly is really good. I think it's between Philly and Boston next year coming out of the East.
Absolutely.
And if they add Kawhi, that probably puts them over the top.
Oh, for sure. And teams dealing with free agency understand just how hard it is to hire the right people. At least the pool of candidates in the NBA is narrow. But who knows if Kawhi Leonard will fit alongside LeBron? Well, this is where ZipRecruiter comes in, and they can help solve all of your hiring problems by visiting ZipRecruiter.com/breakdown. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards, but they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. With results like that, it's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the highest rated hiring site in America. And right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/breakdown. That's ZipRecruiter.com/breakdown. ZipRecruiter.com/BREAKDOWN. So what are you waiting for? Start hiring. Let's look at this now. With the signing of KCP to the Lakers, now suddenly the notion of like maybe DeMar DeRozan coming or trading for him isn't going to happen, because I was kind of thinking that maybe some rumblings about that, or I mean, I was almost going to say, what about like Bradley Beal? You know, they've already moved Gortat. Perhaps they're going to do a little bit of a fire sale in Washington. But if that doesn't happen, we have to look at the roster now for the Lakers and what's left. We have a restricted free agent in Julius Randle, who I think they would need. Like if they really want to compete off the bench for them, or you know, do they play him at the 5 alongside LeBron and anybody else in the front court?
I think in an ideal scenario, he is kind of a small ball 5, but. No, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't imagine they're bringing Randall back. I don't know if they're going to renounce his rights, but I don't imagine they're going to bring him back. I think it's going to be too expensive, and someone's going to make him a good offer, or they're going to renounce him. Maybe even try to do a sign and trade.
But why hasn't that offer should happen? Like, how many teams could offer him to pay him? He should be making, I mean, whatever his max is, he's probably going to get somewhere close to that. He had a great year last year, and he's proven that he can be a good player. How many teams are left in the NBA that can actually offer him a nice contract?
Yeah, I don't have my sheets in front of me, but I still think that there's a few that can offer him a decent deal. I think Dallas still can create some space. Actually, I'm not sure about that, because they signed DeAndre. They signed DeAndre last night. Yeah, I'm not sure, and I do think he is a sign and trade candidate. Like that is very much, I think, in play for him. He is a good player, and he is a guy that some teams value, and I think the issues with some of the other fits is like, if he went to Dallas, he doesn't really work because they're not going to play a switching style defense, and that's part of his value, is that he could switch and guard wings. So I don't know. I don't really see the fit. I mean, maybe he signs his qualifying offer, comes back for a year, and then is back out as an unrestricted guy next summer in a market that actually has plenty of money.
Right. So. Do the Spurs, would they value Julius Randle if they tried packaging him as part of a trade for Kawhi?
I mean, it's possible, and again, this is where I think a sign and trade is on the table with him, and I've heard some reports that he would be grouped into this whole thing, but you can't look at him as really as a part of the trade, right? Like, because of the sign and trade aspect, unless it's a favorable contract for the Spurs. Like, they're not going to want to pay him $18 million a year. Let's put it that way. But if they could get Julius Randle for somewhere in the range of 13, I think that they'd be pretty amenable to it. He is a good player. I mean, he's not like a great player, but he's a good player, and he showed that he can do some things. So
yeah, I mean, he could be a double machine, and he still has a higher ceiling. I think he can still improve. There's lots of ways for him to do that. So but he would be the guy they would probably need if LeBron wants to really compete. And that's the other question: is what's his end game here? Knowing right now that he's playing with a bunch of youngins who have promise, but probably aren't going to get him, much past the first round of the playoffs. So that's the real key. Although, again, we're 100% sure something is going to happen. They're going to get another legit player, right?
Well, so the reports that are coming out right now say that LeBron and Magic actually spoke about this, last night, late, out on the West Coast, and essentially, LeBron assured him that this was a long-term deal. I mean, he did sign a 4-year deal. Now, it's really a 3-year deal with an opt-out on the 4th year. And that's fine. But this is a longer-term contract than LeBron has signed since 2010. This is the longest one. So he obviously is in it. This is hey, I'm staying in LA. I'm sticking around. There's none of this I'm not going to hold my free agency over your head to make it so that you have to go out and get a guy. And as we see, the Lakers don't have Kawhi. They don't have Paul George, and they got LeBron. So clearly this is a move LeBron wanted to make. And regardless of who comes to play with him. Now, it is LeBron James, so I think we'll get some people. But as we've seen the last few years, it's not the easiest thing in the world to attract free agents to come play with LeBron James. And this, I think we might all think, oh, who wouldn't want to play with LeBron James? But clearly there are people that don't want to play with LeBron James. So
you can say Paul George. It's an acceptable name to say on our program. Certainly, right? Paul George obviously knew that, they all talk. They all knew what's going on.
Yeah.
So Paul George knows LeBron's going to L.A. Paul George wants to be a Laker, and he turns him down. Now, I guess the caveat here, and you will not convince me otherwise, is that before Paul George agreed, he knows they're getting rid of Carmelo. Because there's no possible reason for him to go back to OKC if they keep the team the way it was last year. And so it has to, without a shadow of a doubt, they promise him. And by the way, no one's going to take Melo's contract, even in some sort of weird way they sign a trade or a trade. So they knew that they were going to cut him, right? That was sort of what had to have been talked about before last night or before he made his decision.
Yeah, he's going to have to be stretched and waived, or waived and stretched, and that'll save like $97 million in tax or something.
By the way, I saw like $100 million, $350 million on Twitter. People were just making up numbers, but it's at least $100 million in luxury tax, right?
Yeah, it's something like that. It is really insane, and so there's a lot of stuff going on there. I'm not sure if they're going to get rid of Melo or not, because you got to understand, like, he's a veteran. He's well liked. All these guys like him, and that matters. And like how you treat players, it really does matter in this league. And this is why the Spurs are amenable to finding trades for guys if they don't want to be there. Right now, the Kawhi situation is a little bit different, but historically, right? Like the Spurs are known as an organization that tries to take care of people. So I think that. I don't know for sure if they're going to do it. I mean, this is just Clay Bennett's money. It's not, if Clay Bennett is willing to pay it, fine.
Well, what's sad is that he wasn't willing to pay it when they had Harden, and they could have kept that together. But hey, listen, I think it was clear, though, independent of the contracts, that they weren't going to get along, right? I just felt like Russ and the Harden dynamic, they were going to butt heads and continue to butt heads, and be a problem for any coach to keep them together. So that could very well be, one of those saving graces for that trade. But certainly, now, if they did it then, there's no question they have to do it now, and they should. The bottom line is Carmelo does not help their team. They could get somebody else in there. I mean, I don't know. You could even start Bob Robertson in that spot and improve, I would think, although they still want shooting. Now, here's the thing that kind of is really head-scratching, is that Trevor Ariza bails from Houston to go to Phoenix, of all places. And I know, again, like we talked about, there's not a lot of teams that have a lot of cash around, so they were able to double his salary, but I don't know. To me, Trevor Ariza should go to OKC and take Carmelo's role, and then OKC can threaten anybody in the world in a 7-game series.
Yeah, that Ariza, man, wow. I said this was the biggest signing of the summer for the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
Ariza to Phoenix. I mean, you essentially, I'm not going to say you completely neutered the Rockets, but it hurts them quite a bit. I mean, I don't think that they don't win 65 games without Ariza. I don't think that they're taking the Warriors to Game 7 without Ariza. He's an important player for them.
Yeah.
But
imagine that. Imagine if you had Ariza, and then you throw like Jeremy Grant and Robertson and Russ and Steven Adams.
It'd be fantastic.
Yeah. That's a really good, they can cover for each other. There's enough defense there that can really make a lot of problems for people. You have to imagine, by the way, that Robertson, he will continue to improve a little bit on the three-point shot. I mean, they're going to be wide open for him. He's going to, if he doesn't, that's going to be the unprecedented case of a player who played more than 5 years in the league. They all improve somewhat. So, it's just a really strange thing. I just don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I hope. I love what he does defensively. I love, I hate to watch him shoot free throws and miss and hang his head, right? Like, it's demoralizing, so I root for the guy to get better. But man, I don't know, the history of these guys, it just, most guys don't figure it out. Most guys don't.
most guys will
when
improve
they're
their
this bad, most guys don't.
Okay, we'll see. Maybe. And by the way, it's never mind. But I think I could help nonetheless. It's like,
oh yeah, me too.
There's some clear
like
things.
His mechanics, clearly, his mechanics are a huge issue.
Yeah.
And
well, oh, by the way, and to me, when I don't even deal, I've been working with a lot of kids in the last couple of months. I don't even deal with mechanics. It's the rhythm. And once you get the rhythm properly moving and everything firing in sync, I don't even worry about, I mean, you know, by the way, this is all mechanics too, but I'm not even worried about the elbow or the wrist or any of that stuff. We just try and find the rhythm of the ball going up into the basket with the legs, and it really makes a big deal. But we don't have to get into bog down into the details of that.
Right.
Let's look
by
at
the way.
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to throw this out there. Apparently, is to come back. He'd like to sign with the Lakers.
Say that one more time.
Chris Bosh.
Oh, they're not going to take that risk.
With the Lakers. Oh man,
right? They can't take that risk.
I wish he could be healthy. I wish he could be healthy and come back and play with the Lakers. That would be amazing.
Well, let's look at the Lakers roster right now and just sort of look at what we have right now. I mean, let's just pretend that they're not going to make any other. Well, I don't know. Should we do that? I mean, is it worth the exercise to look at the possibility of having Ball, Ingram, and LeBron on the
no, I think we're probably like looking August, September. Before we even know what this team is going to look like this year. They're going to be trying to make moves all summer.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
But what am I going to do then? I have to make a video, and everyone's
you
got
to make a video.
Well, I don't want to make it until I know if they're going to get Kawhi. But then I have to do 2 videos. I guess I can do 2 videos.
I was hoping that the Kawhi news was just going to break while we were live here, but no, I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, Popovich and Buford are not going to be so amenable to making everybody happy. Hezonja signs in New York. By the way, that came out not too long ago.
Yeah, and I mean, you know how much I love Hezonja.
Yeah.
I would love to. I'd love to see Hezonja in a good environment. Actually, play the way that I think he can, and I think that he could be a nice playmaking four. A nice stretch four, a guy who can attack a closeout and get to the basket. He's a good athlete. How's he going to do there? I don't know. I don't know.
I think
Fizdale, right? Like Fizdale, we all have hope in Fizdale.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if he's not too hard on him, and it gives him some encouragement to shoot it. I actually had a chance to interview Aaron Gordon in New York at the Uncle Drew premiere. And interestingly enough, I asked him at the very end, I'm like, well, so, looking forward to the Magic. Now, full disclosure, I kind of forgot he was a restricted free agent. Wait, I'm sorry. Is he unrestricted or is he restricted?
He's restricted.
So I kind of forgot he's a restricted free agent when I asked him that. So, but he was very much like, Mo Bamba, yeah, ooh, like he just sort of was like, but didn't really, to me, it almost sounded like he's ready to get out of there and is going to sign an offer sheet with somebody and hope that maybe they don't match it. But the Magic probably match it either way, right?
I don't know about that. You got to think they've got Bamba at the 5. They've got Jonathan Isaacs, who really plays Aaron Gordon's position that they just drafted last year and also needs to play some minutes at the 5. I just don't think there's a space for Aaron Gordon. Remember, this front office changed over, so it's a new regime. They didn't draft him. I don't think they're married to him. Okay. I mean, the interest that the Pacers have in him, I think, is legit. I think that they're going to come in strong. I think they can come in around $20 million. So if they're offering like 4 years, $20 million, I don't know if Orlando's going to match that. Okay. And I would love to see Aaron Gordon in that Pacers offense, man. That's just the kind of guy that they were missing, a secondary playmaker, a guy with his sort of athleticism, his ability to shoot the ball, as we saw last year.
Yeah. Remember, he cooled down, but then he actually ended up finishing a little higher than I had remembered. So it wasn't
remember, he was injured. So he got hurt a little bit, and that triggered the cool down. I think that what we saw early, I think that's kind of what we're going to see out of him, in particular in a better offense.
That's right. Right. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, no, that's exciting. And certainly with maybe the newfound Oladipo confidence that he developed in the playoffs, because, I don't even think Oladipo played that way in the regular season. He didn't play he was the unstoppable force where the Cavaliers had to do some sort of junk defenses to stop him because they couldn't stop him any other way. So I'm really excited to see what's happening in Indiana, especially with now the shift of power even more to the West, which is another crazy thing we can discuss, is that do we go to a 1 through 16 playoff seeding?
I think we should. We're not going to this year. There's no way it happens like now.
They can't do that fast?
No, I imagine because teams would get just really pissed. I imagine it's going to come up this summer in the competition committee, and I would bet that they don't do anything. Let's say maybe 2021, 2022, something around there. If they were going to change to the 1 through 16, yeah. I mean, if you think about this, and it's a bummer, but one of the Rockets, the Warriors, and now the Lakers are going to be eliminated before the conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a bummer, right? Like, they're not going to make it out of the second round. And, it's unfortunate because those three teams could wind up being the best three teams in the league, depending on what the Lakers wind up doing. Any team with LeBron has an opportunity to be amazing. But the Celtics, you've got the Celtics and the Sixers, and then you've got the Raptors who are possibly going to kind of run it back with a new coach. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Absolutely.
I definitely think they're going to talk about it, though.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to because this is sort of reminiscent of what happened when Shaq came to the West from Orlando, and that was sort of ground zero for when the West just became dominant over the East for a while, and they've never recovered. You throw LeBron into the conference now, and it just weighs it down even more, and we're going to have to wait and see. But certainly, okay, who's the best player in the East now? Right? Who's the best player in the East? That's an interesting question. I stymied you.
Joel Embiid?
I'm going to tweet that out.
Al Horford?
Yeah. No. Al Horford. No, I mean, is it Kyrie?
I don't know. I mean, I think Joel Embiid might be the best player in the East.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
It's not.
I'm forgetting someone. I've got to be.
Yeah, right. We are. I mean, it's not DeRozan. It's not, it's Simmons and B. That's certainly the future. I mean, is it Giannis? It's probably Giannis.
Oh yeah, it's Giannis. It's definitely Giannis. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But that's weird. How do we not remember him? Because by the way, I have to do a video on Giannis in Budenholzer's system, which would be interesting as well. And we have faith that he's going to be able to finally get some spacing and get better attack angles, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, everyone chimed in with it's Giannis. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
it is Giannis. Why? You know why we didn't think about Giannis?
Why?
Because the Bucks have not really done anything since they got eliminated from the playoffs. And signing Ilyasova and taking themselves up against the hard cap to do so was that was an issue. So, I don't think that the Bucks have gotten any better. And so it's not so much that we forgot about Giannis, but we forgot about the Bucks. Yeah,
right. That's true. And they got eliminated in a way that wait, who beat them in the playoffs this year?
The Celtics.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that was a good series. But, that seems like about 6 months ago now. So, that's another thing. Let's go through the comments and see if we have any good questions over on Periscope while we move closer to the end of the show than the beginning. The salary cap going up again next year, right? Chew Easy asks. This is one of the years where it's been not a lot, right?
No, so this year it's going to be 101, which is about what they expected. Next year it's going to bump, I think might have been 109, and then it's like 116. Let me pull those numbers up. But yeah, there's going to be a couple of bumps in the next few years, but not for the 18-19 season.
Okay, let's see here. A Case Online asks the best two-way player. I think maybe he's referring to Kawhi. I hate the two-way player moniker. I really don't like we have to use that. But Kawhi is without question, when he's healthy, the best two-way player. I was listening to some real shade being thrown on Paul George's defense on somewhere. Not we won't mention. And I was shocked. Do you not feel that Paul George is an elite defender?
I think he was. I just think that the way that he has to defend in OKC, it's not exactly suited to him. I don't think he's this great on the ball defender that maybe he was, in the early years playing against Miami. I think he's much better as a help guy. I'd love to see him kind of be used in a Durant type of role, the way that they use him like as a secondary rim protector. I think that would be smart. But yeah, Paul George doesn't move the needle for me very much. Like I really don't Like, I don't know. I would not want to pay him this contract that OKC has given him.
What are they? What was the numbers again? How much?
It's a 4-year max with the opt out after year 3, and then could wind up if he re-signs after that. It could wind up being like I think the total value winds up being like 7 years and I don't know, $200-something million. Anyway, it winds up being like $40 million a season.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I don't think I want to be paying him at age 32 the max, much less age 34, 35. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not as high on Paul George as a lot of people are.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean,
I think he's a third guy. If you're trying to put together a championship team, I think he could be like your third best player. I don't think he can be your best or your second best.
Right. I mean, I saw moments last year, like against the Warriors in the regular season, where he was just dismantling a lot of their offense by himself. So I think it's there and he can do it, but I guess there's a consistency that's not there. But when he does it like that, he's certainly in the ballpark of like what Kawhi can do on the perimeter. But I see what you mean. It's not always there, and if he's not always there, then we can't rate him at that. So fair enough. Any other questions here that we might see in the Periscope comments? And then Paul George, let's see here. I Bleed PG talking about how Paul George made a documentary, declined his player option, and became a free agent, all to stay in the OKC. Yes, that's a common tactic, wouldn't you say, Dave?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nothing weird about declining the option. Declining the option allowed him to get more guaranteed money, and that's how it works. I was shocked. I was really shocked, and I know you probably were too, that he stayed in OKC.
Yeah.
And this just goes to show you that we probably, all of us, me included, I'll call myself out here, are probably way too biased against places like Oklahoma City. We're thinking too much about the place and not enough about the culture of the team, which is who these guys spend all their time with. Russell Westbrook and Paul George clearly have a good friendship and a good relationship. Yeah, and we probably overvalued the allure of a place like Los Angeles for a guy like Paul George. For LeBron, it makes a lot of sense because we know about all the entertainment, aspirations he has, but Paul George, to my knowledge, doesn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, well, speak for yourself, because I'm not talking about the OKC, the city itself, when I'm thinking about why he would have left. But nonetheless, T.N. Euler wants to ask us from 1 to 10, how shocking was the Ariza deal? At 10, right?
Yeah, that was unbelievable, and I can't believe it just happened that fast.
Right. I wonder how shocked Morey was, because he did not have a chance. But he would never have paid him $15 million. We know that, right?
Yeah, well, he wasn't going to be able to pay him $15 million. And so I will say this, 1 year, $15 million, and a lot of people have said, wow, I can't believe Ariza didn't get more than a year. Everyone has to remember, there's more money available next year because more teams have space, but also there's another cap bump. It's an $8 million bump next year. This is projected. So, he's getting a 1-year deal now. He'll go out and get a longer deal next year.
Right.
I think he's only 33. I think he'll be 34 next summer. He's a player that should be able to go out and get some more guaranteed money next year.
Yeah, I mean, but what, a 3-year deal? Like, he's not going to get a 5-year, whatever.
No, he might get a 2 or 3 year deal, but it will still be more overall money, and that's the name of the game.
So Kizzy Wiz asks, how much cap space do the Lakers now have? Can they still sign a player, wait, or trade for Kawhi? They could do all of those things, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't wait for Kawhi. Like, first of all, we saw how that worked out.
Yeah.
For Paul George, and I'm not saying everyone is kind of the same with but it's not great. So here's what I'll say. This is per Eric Pincus, who is our friend. Also he does a lot of stuff for NBA TV and Basketball Insiders. The Lakers have about $13.8 million left to keep Randall, or they can go after another player, or they can stretch Luol Deng and have 23.6. If they can trade Deng into someone's salary cap space, they could get $31 million, which is, that's pretty close to max. But there's no one out there to get with that money.
And there's no one out there that's going to take
one guy, right? There's no one person.
Yeah.
But that would make it easier to kind of, you wouldn't have to send out as much salary to get Kawhi. So they do have money to spend. I mean, but this $13.8 million, they can go over the cap to get Randall, to keep Randall in house. But if they renounce him, they'll only have up to the cap.
Right. Alex Peterson asks, how does this affect LeBron's legacy?
I don't think it changes anything. I think that in the modern day and age. Like this is just how it works. I mean, it doesn't change anything for me, at least. I mean, now I think people are definitely going to feel differently, and it might be a generational thing. But
yeah, we did. By the way, we didn't mention Boogie Cousins at all, really.
Yeah.
I
think he's going back to the Pelicans.
Okay, because everyone thinks they're going to the Lakers now.
Maybe he goes to the Lakers. Maybe, but they're not going to really have the money. I mean, unless they do clear all the space and just give him like maybe a 2-year with a team option on the third or something. I don't know. It's going to be tricky.
Think about that. You sign him for a 2-year deal. He won't even play for the first quarter of it, and are
you sure?
I'm sure. I mean, and then it probably won't be 100% for the first half of it, right? Like, I don't know. People seem to think it's an 8-month rehab and he'll be back for the beginning of the season. Like, I think that's nonsense, don't you? He's not coming back until January of 2019. I
honestly don't know. I mean, Wesley Matthews came back. I think he hurt his right around. Right. And then we saw Rudy Gay. I mean, Rudy Gay was back. So
wait. When did Rudy Gay didn't tear his Achilles?
Yeah, Rudy Gay tore his Achilles.
Oh, I'm sorry. God, I was thinking Rudy Gobert when you said that. Yes, right. None of whom have recovered that impressively, really. I mean, I still watch Wes Matthews, and he doesn't run. He runs like he tore his Achilles, unfortunately. I think it's going to be permanent. But this is a much bigger guy who never seemed to show the ability. Like, I don't know how hard he's going to work. But, hey, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Fair enough.
Yeah. And remember, the only kind of guy like him that we've seen tear his Achilles was Elton Brand. And he did it a little later in his career, wasn't nearly the athlete that Boogie is, just a different player in a different era. So we don't really have anything to compare it to. So, I mean, he could come back and he could be amazing.
Right. He could. Now, again, and as we wrap this up, we could discuss briefly, does a team, let's just pretend Kawhi makes it to the Lakers, does a team of LeBron and Kawhi and Boogie and Lonzo work?
I'm not as skeptical of the Lonzo-LeBron fit because, remember, Lonzo is at his best when he's a secondary playmaker. He's not the kind of guy you want running pick and roll and doing all this stuff off the dribble. He's the kind of guy that he makes plays in transition in particular. He's a great defensive playmaker, as we saw in his rookie year. He's fantastic as a defensive playmaker, making things happen that way, looking up court, throwing those passes. I think he works fine with LeBron. The issues are, can he stay on the court? Like, can he shoot well enough to stay on the court?
Right. I think he would. I think he's definitely one of those guys like, even KCP who will get better looks. And we did see long stretches of ball where he did shoot really well. And guess what? It sounds like he was probably playing with a torn meniscus. And, if that's the case, then that would certainly affect your jump shooting as well. So if they can clean that up and get him ready for the beginning of the year, which they should on that one, then I would think he would be able to work well. But I wasn't thinking about that. I'm thinking more about the fact that LeBron has never played with a center that demands the ball like Boogie does.
Yeah. So, never.
So that's a good question. How is that going to work? Because LeBron has been able to dictate 80% of the possessions he's on the floor for. But Boogie is going to, certainly demand and requires and should be able to do that himself. So that's an interesting, question. They shared. I think
Brook Lopez would be fine if they could bring him back for something like the mid level.
Yeah, and would he take it? He's made a lot of money. He's played on some really bad teams. So the argument being that maybe he'll finally, he'll take some less money to be on a winner. I like what Brook Lopez does. I did the video with him. We talked about how he can stretch the floor. I did make the mistake of saying he could rebound. That was a big mistake. I don't ever write a voiceover in a hurry, Dave. That's the rule.
Stephen A. Smith just reported that executives around the league are telling him that Kawhi Leonard would potentially sit out next season.
Ooh. Wow.
To try to get to LA.
This is like we're getting into petty vindictive stuff here. Wow. What
I don't think that'll happen. I don't think that'll happen. And the truth is, I think the Spurs will move him before it came to that.
They would, for sure.
Yeah. Aaron Gordon, by the way, is going to be re-signing with the Orlando Magic. So what do I know? What do I know?
because he didn't. I know he didn't even give a shout out to Steve Clifford, the new coach, or anything. So, but hey, he's all in there. So that's interesting. Again, these dominoes fall. It affects everything. So suddenly other teams, Aaron Gordon is not on their board anymore. So we'll have to figure it out. Actually, a case online gives an interesting tidbit here. Luke Walton and LeBron were in the same draft class.
They were.
That's crazy.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. So that's really interesting to see how.
Wonder what those guys are up to now.
You know what? Luke's going to get an eye-opening. It's going to be eye-opening for him to suddenly be head coach of a team that has LeBron on it, without question.
It could work, man. Like, Luke is a relationship guy, and that was one of the things that you heard coming out of Golden State. How well he got along with all the guys, right. And it helps that he's a guy. He probably couldn't still play now, like just health-wise, but he did play recently. He hasn't been out of the league that long.
Right.
And it might be okay. My concern is, again, I don't think Luke Walton is this amazing X and O's execution type guy. I think, again, he's a relationship type of coach. And I don't know. I feel like we're being robbed a little bit of seeing LeBron play for a coach like, Greg Popovich or,
right.
Someone of that nature. Someone, like
Brad Stevens or something like that, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to just imagine that in our heads because it's never going to happen. But Dave, great emergency podcast, live show, everything. Good, great questions over there in the Periscope too. So I think we solved some problems here, don't you?
I don't. I think LeBron just created a bunch of new problems in the West. I mean, it just the West keeps getting richer.
Yeah, they do. Well, keep your eyes out, everybody, for the next domino to fall, because obviously the Lakers are not done until they're done, and they're going to try and do something. So we'll be right along for the ride and ready to do some more live shows, and maybe we'll even do something together in Vegas and during the Summer League.
That would be fantastic. That's what I'm hoping for.
Cool. I'll bring some stuff. My accoutrement. We'll figure out how to do a live show there. So, Dave, thanks for coming on and joining us for this. You two out there as well for being part of the great live show we just did. So, thank you, everybody. And don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You win? Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.